Our lives are laid out on a road of bumps, turns, struggles, and more. How do we respond? How do we endure adversity for learning and growth? I'm Aubrey Johnson, and we'll explore these questions and more on the road to rediscovery. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Road to Rediscovery. I'm your host, Aubrey Johnson, and I'm so glad that you're here with me. The Road to Rediscovery is about reflecting on life lessons to learn and grow from them, and to take it to the next level and help others who are struggling through dark times. My special guest is one of the most sought-after self-empowerment authors, having done over 90 television, radio, magazine, and newspaper interviews in the last 6 months. 6 months. A therapist in private practice for over 30 years. He's published the Fix Yourself Handbook last year. Now, this book contains over 20 years of research, program development, and counseling application. Absolutely amazing. I believe, in my mind, in my heart of hearts, this book is best described in the following excerpt. No one can fix your world for you. Everything you need to be happy and fulfilled is already inside of you. You simply need to understand how to use it. Then you can find peace, empowerment, and begin to love yourself. Let's learn about this and many other anecdotes and excerpts from this amazing book by introducing Mr. Faust Ruggiero. Faust, how are you doing, sir?
Aubrey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me aboard. You know, I've watched a number of the episodes. I'm really a fan of the show, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you, sir. And we reciprocate. We truly are honored that you are on our show, taking time out of your busy schedule. And I love the title, by the way, of your book, right? The Fix Yourself Handbook, because when it comes to life, right, it's not like a refrigerator or a lawnmower, you know, where it has a user's manual, right? We don't have those things. And so handbooks, you know, is a good guide, navigational tool, and so forth. So from the sounds of the book, and I've done some reading on your website about the book, it sounds like this book can truly apply to all facets of life. Is that right?
That's what it's designed to do. You know, when you're a therapist, particularly in private practice, and you see so many people, you kind of work, you kind of vacillate between, do I solve this problem, or do I teach them the right way to solve all their problems? So, and the second is always the right way. You know, we don't want people to keep coming back to us and say, well, I have a new problem. Well, I've got another problem. You know, we want them to be, we want to teach them to be, to empower them to be self-sufficient people who can go out and, take on whatever comes on in life. You may need some help every now and then, but for the most, we all do, but for the most part, we should be able to say, okay, there's a problem there. I got the resources, I got the confidence, and these are the tools and the skills that I need, and I can apply them. So that's what the book's designed to do.
Fantastic. Oh, man. So from what I understand as well, Faust, the book has several foundational elements, right? I think I mentioned it in the introduction, talking about research, program development, etc. But can you share with us, I guess, a key or primary foundational element in this book driven by the process way of life? Can you explain the process way of life for us?
Yeah, when you do what I've done, as long as I've done it, you come out of school and they teach you all the formal ways to deal with people, and it's wonderful. You gain the skills. Then you're thrust into the real world, and I've counseled in deaf clinics, and I've counseled in hospitals and in prisons, and the whole. And all of a sudden, you're saying, okay, they didn't tell me this, right? They didn't tell me that, and then you're in practice, and you start throwing this out a little. You don't use that too much, and you start picking the things you do use. And what I started to realize was that what was missing is, first of all, what was missing is our ability to go inside ourselves and get what we need.
Yes.
We go outside of ourselves for everything. Well, this doesn't work. Someone out there is either to blame or someone should be there to help me fix this or fix it for me. So the first thing I saw, I said, well, that's not the case. We got to go. We have to be masters of our own destiny, if you will. We have to be our own empowerment experts. So I said, how does this happen? And it really started to dawn on me. Every time someone would come in, they're not being honest with themselves, or their emotions are overriding their intellects, or all the defenses, all the various things. So I started to realize that certain processes of life were missing. And then, really started to do the research, and let's start defining some of these things.
Right.
And I came up with about 52 of them that I thought applied in this first text, and put them into all the various chapters. There's 36 chapters, 36 different problems, things that we do. And those processes are the keys. That's the one. If you master the processes, then you're able to start looking inside yourself, because now you got those tools. But again, the key is that you want to be able to do this for yourself. We think it's easier to go out and let somebody else do it, and it looks that way until they don't, and they won't.
That's right.
Then we have to go. You're going to come back to yourself anyway. So you're going to come back with anger or fear or depression or whatever it may be, or you're going to come to yourself in the beginning and come to the PowerPoints you have. And that's what I want people to find. We all have this. I have found nothing new. I'm just identifying it and putting it into a format. That's all.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. And it sounds like a very intuitive format. And if you don't mind, I'm going to pick up a copy of this book. I truly am, because, it's a good self-check for me. And I'm very self-aware of my shortcomings, my attributes, things I need further development in, and so forth. And so, it's a good check for, what am I doing right? What can I do better? Right. And that sort of thing. But, not everyone in life is on the same level. Not everyone in life is in the same place. Right. So it sounds like you have some very useful tools to help people overcome some of those challenges before they can even realize that their happiness and the tools to fix themselves are from within. Like, let's say someone who is, and I'm just throwing examples out here, someone who's codependent, right? They're always, to your point, looking outward for the answer, the solution, or someone to bail them out, or someone to help them. Another example, let's say someone who has a very sense of low self-esteem due to traumatic events in their childhood, or maybe just being left out of school activities, family life, friends, and that sort of thing growing up. So they have a low sense of self or worth. Your tools, it sounds like, addresses those for people who are struggling in those areas. Is that right?
Exactly what it's designed to do. People will come into my office and say, well, you got all this together. My God, you've been doing this for years, and published author, you won awards and all. And I say, well, one of the reasons I got here is because, like you, I'm an introspective person, and I am keenly aware of those deficits. So, flipping forward, when I read through the book after it was finished and started working in my own life, I started seeing, not only did I put this together, now I started to formally use it myself.
Right.
Something that I was doing all those things, but it was fragmented. It wasn't put into a language, if you will. And now I'm helping people, and I'm saying, I'm actually a better counselor. Now I flip backward again, and I say, how'd I get there? Because, like you again, the deficits were there. We all have a story. None of us got here, and nothing went wrong. Something spurs that along. For me, if you remember when you and I talked in our initial conversation, I said my dad had a stroke when I was 9. So talk about changing family dynamics. With a stroke at the age of 42, which he was. All of a sudden, it's grow up fast, and you don't grow up fast when you're 9. You think you do. It changes a whole lot of things. And, then you get into teenage years and you're doing the wrong things. And then you get into college and you start putting it together and you realize, man, I got some work to do here if I
That's
want to
right.
do it right,
Yes.
and that's the key. Because we can meander our way through life and we're doing things wrong and we'll blame this guy and the government didn't do this and my spouse didn't do this and that horrible guy at work. And, and if there's anything that tells you that there's a problem within, is that almost everywhere else you look, there seems to be a problem. So the problem is not outside of you and you can't fix it there. So, some of this program is formal education, some of it's experience, some of it's personal trauma where myself, I had to work through some things.
Yeah.
And when I wrote it and I read it later and it really started to make some difference, that was the proof I needed. Could it actually change my life? Could I step down from being the so-called expert and read what I wrote and make some changes based on it? And it happened. So I'm kind of happy with that part of it.
Oh, no, absolutely, Faust. And to me, it sounds like that was your point of rediscovery, right? You were the expert, you built it, you made it. And so, there was a point of discovery in building it, obviously. And then now you're seeing how it applies to your life, or you're asking yourself, how can I apply this to my life? And that's practical application to where you are now rediscovering on the other end of the pencil, I guess you could say,
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were talking, it reminded me of a chapter I wrote on wisdom, because we all want that wisdom. But one of the, wisdom, if you think you arrived and now you're the expert, that you don't realize how close that is to arrogance. And when you get to that point, you start to think, well, maybe I've arrived, maybe I got to the point where I got it all together. And then you realize if you don't get some humility into there and back it down a few notches, you're going to be in trouble. And what I say in the book is that, arrogance is the teacher who arrives at the destination and believes he doesn't have to learn anymore. Humility is the teacher that continues to remain the student. And that's the path I choose to stay on. Never get to the point where I think I learned enough. There's no destination in life where you get to and say, I got it. We should continue to grow, challenge ourselves, and learn and fix yourself, if you will, but get out there and be able to empower your world and then spread that out to everyone else. Wrap that around the rest of the world, because the final thing in life isn't really how much we get, it's how much we give.
Absolutely.
So that's the bottom. And I don't care how much you gain in your life, if you're not willing to give it all away, if you're not willing to share all that, you blew it. It's just as simple as that.
No, it totally is. And I'm a firm believer, and I know some people aren't big fans of this word, but one's legacy is based on what they give, not what they received, and not even what they accomplished. In my opinion, it's what they give. That's the legacy, right? And so my background is talent development. So from a training and learning standpoint, I'm totally in lockstep with you, Faust, when it comes to always learning. Okay. And I'm truly digging this conversation, because we've already talked about and tapped into two of what I call the four cornerstones to personal growth. And the two that we tapped into was self-awareness and humility. Very, very, very key areas. And so I appreciate you sharing some insight for the listeners on how those two apply to fixing yourself and apply to life. So let me ask you something. We talked a few minutes ago about how, you've dealt with your father having a stroke at 42, and then getting, as you got older, gotten mixed in with the wrong crowd, maybe a little trouble here and there. Then you're in college, and then you start to realize, I don't know if it's, for lack of a better term, I'm going to say you start to get it, right? You start to realize, hey, I got some work to do if I want to, get serious about this. When it comes to that point of realization, is there ever a such thing as someone being early to the party, or too early, or
You
someone
know,
discovering that
it's a
late?
great question. None of us arrive at the same time. You know,
Okay.
life is a journey.
Yes, it
The
is.
world doesn't stay, it's not stagnant. It doesn't stay in one place and wait for us. It's
Yeah.
dynamic. It changes, you know, every day. I mean, I'm at a point now where I'm in my 60s, and I remember I had a laugh. There was some music that came on, and I said, "Oh, that's terrible." And then it brought me back to my parents saying, "You rock and roll," and and I said, "The world is changing, and I need to not embrace everything going on,
Right.
but apply myself to
Yes.
put myself in a position to open it all up and
Yes.
come in and get that."
Yes.
We don't all get it at the same time. And I don't know that it's important that we do. If we all just arrived at the same time, now you're talking a static world. It's never going to happen. It's going to
Right.
change constantly.
Mhm.
And again, we're back to that. A lot of people think we're going to get it at a certain point. And my
Mhm.
question is always, okay, how do we know when we got it?
Right. That's pretty
Because
abstract, you know.
when you think about it,
Yeah.
and that's what I preach in the book. There is no destination. If
Mhm.
there is, can you please tell me when you got there? How do
Yeah.
you know you got there?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a dynamic journey that changes every day, from the moment we take our first breath to the time we take our last.
Right.
Between those, what I call existential bookends,
Mhm.
everything occurs, and the gift is that it changes constantly, because that's where our growth is, if
Yes.
we're willing to embrace that concept.
Yes.
If we want to get there, and it's and again, the way the brain works, the brain tries to keep us as comfortable as it can. That's the
Right.
brain's job.
Right.
Whether it's a comfort zone, whether it's, it's sitting with your bowl of chips at night, or your beer, or
Self-preservation. Yeah.
all that crap, and then
Yeah.
we realize that the comfort zone became a prison, and we're locked into it, and now we're behind the eight ball a little bit. That's what the
Mhm.
brain wants us to do. And I
Mhm.
always tell people, challenge all that. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be life-changing events.
Right.
Mix the order of what you do up every day. Put a few things in that don't typically belong there,
Right.
and challenge yourself. Work with change constantly. Be a person who's willing to say, "Let me look at that."
Yes. Yes.
Whether it's in events or it's in people.
Mhm.
We all do this prejudice thing we call, we are only going to allow certain people in. It's not only based on color or sexuality,
No.
it's
No.
across the board,
Yes, it is.
because we don't,
Yeah.
we don't know how. And you
Right.
know what the answer is to all of that? Take every person one person at a time. Here, you and I having a conversation we are thoroughly enjoying,
Mhm.
sharing some love together,
Yep.
because we chose to do that. At the end, you and I will both be better people, because we got to spend an hour together. Do that across the board. Do it with everyone that you meet. Open
Yes.
it all up and see what that person brings to you. And, because we all have, if you're going to trust what I've said, we all have the power inside us. Everyone does. Trust that the next guy does too.
Yes.
And check it out. See what's in there. And that's again the gift of studenthood. Go find out what the other person has. Go find out what the other event has. Challenge yourself just a little bit. Get a
Yes.
little bit uncomfortable, because you had
Yes.
to move off
Yes.
your safe zone, and then
Mhm.
figure out why you got uncomfortable.
Right.
There's so much information in that.
Yeah, no, it truly is, and you hit the nail right on the head, Faust. I mean, two things that contribute to growth is change and discomfort, right?
Yeah.
You don't want your safe space to become a prison. In a lot of cases, it does, because we're creatures of habit, right? And we like and go for what we are most comfortable with and what we feel the safest with. And it takes a tremendous amount of presence of mind to stop yourself and realize, hey, wait, I feel too comfortable here. I'm going to challenge myself and do something different, right? And your book has the tools to help someone realize that, and to turn things around, to slightly challenge themselves, to feel a little discomfort, and to also learn how to deal and bear with that discomfort as they're going through it. That's what I'm gathering from what you're sharing with your insights about your book and about your extensive experience in this field. Faust, I really, really appreciate this, sir. So you spoke a few minutes ago about part of a point that you've made in the book is that there is no destination, right? And so, this is a journey, and we continue to grow, evolve, learn, etc. And that made me think of part of an excerpt that you've had in your book, another part of an excerpt. And I found this intriguing. Okay. And I would love if you can share your thoughts on this and your insights for the listeners. So here's part of that excerpt. Understanding limitlessness, that feeling that boundaries don't have to exist, is a priceless feeling. Can you share your message behind that for the listeners?
Yeah, that comes into the part of the book where I talk about faith.
Okay.
And we decide when people get to the chapter on faith, what I'll get is they'll say, geez, I don't know if I want to be a spiritual person. And I said, well, I said faith. Mm-hmm. I didn't say spiritual. I didn't say anything about God, but you went there, and and that's okay. But what you did is you decided, I don't want to. So you cut off your ability to learn something right there. Mm-hmm. And that's across the board. We talked about just a moment ago about discrimination. Well, spiritual is another thing that we do, and we don't want to go there. My concern in these matters is that we consciously make a decision to exclude. And then by definition, I can't imagine anyone arguing at this. When we do that, we have decided that we're not going to learn any more about that. Our limit, our upward mobility, our ability to get to a higher intellectual level has now been compromised because we consciously made a choice not to explore something, whether it's to get to know another person, whether it's to explore faith. And I tell them to explore faith just like they explore every other chapter I have in there. Everything else, just treat it the same way. Go get the information. Be unbiased. Don't make a decision ahead of time and see what you come up with.
Yeah.
It's very simple. We are very intellectually limiting people. We fancy ourselves as intelligent, but if you look at your day, over and over, we make decisions not to explore something that could provide us with information or experiences or the love of another person or whatever it may be, because before we even try, we say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get to know that person. I'm going to exclude that one. I'm not going to look at that piece of information because, in our family, we never did that sort of thing, and I mean, funny story. We went to a fundraiser for the kids' school many years ago. And after the dinner was over, there was a dance floor and people were dancing. So we're all having a nice time. And there's a group of fathers that I knew, and none of them whom were dancing. And I said, come on, get your wives and dance. And no, and I don't do that. And I've never done that. And she knows that. And one father said, all right, why not? And got up there and really tried. He was a little clumsy, but he went out. His wife was thrilled with him. I can't believe you did this in public for me. Yeah. And I saw him the next day. I didn't know any of that. He saw him the next day and he said, you're not going to believe what you did last night. And I said, I don't know. What did I do? He said, you changed my life. And I said, I'm missing it because we were dancing. He said, stop right there. That's what you did. You put me in a position where I couldn't back out of it. I danced with my wife. We did some fast dancing. He said, I know I look like a jerk. And I said, no, you didn't. We all did either. You were just like the rest of us. But he said, but I jumped out of not only a safe zone, a bias that I had. I told myself, I will never do that. It's not that dancing opened up my life. I changed my mode of thinking. I said, let me try that. He said, you know what I realized? I'm going to try other things now.
Oh, absolutely. It totally applies.
That's what it's all about. To
be
willing
value.
To take a little risk.
Yes.
I don't normally do that. I don't normally talk to that guy. I don't normally try that thing over there. But, I don't have to jump right into it. if I take an
Yeah.
inch, and it's an inch farther than I was earlier, I did something and I'm going to see how that goes. And maybe if I took that inch, I'll try the next inch.
Yes.
So if there's anything that I do like about myself at this point in my life, that even in my mid 60s, I'm saying, bring it on. Let's see what the next thing is,
Yeah.
because I want to learn. And then when I get that, I want to put it into a little package, and I want to give the next person that. Here, try this. I did this and it works.
Yeah.
And I can help you. I can show you how to do it. And you're gonna. It's just about. It's not about making the change. It's about being the person willing to initiate the change. If you're able to do that, everything falls into place.
So true. So true. And the very thing you mentioned right there, Faust. I mean, can you imagine if each person did one thing to help themselves or grow outside of their comfort zone? They learn from it and they apply it to another facet that helps someone else. If everyone did that exponentially, right?
Mm.
And small builds to great. So it's small changes that each person makes collectively that yields a big change for the world. I truly in my heart of hearts believe that.
And that's exactly the way it is, because again, the small changes, first of all, bring us out of the comfort zone. That's the easiest way to get out of a comfort zone. Plus, they
Right.
initiate greater thinking because we have more confident. We're willing to look at some new things.
Yes.
That's always nice. And then it helps us to connect with everyone else, which is so nice when when you're doing what you're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing, and here we are sharing the information.
Yes.
And it's not yours and mine anymore. We've now
Mm.
put this together and made a whole new body of information tonight that your listeners may look and say, listen to these two guys go at this thing. It's
Mhm.
organic, it's flowing, it's touching all different kinds of things. And I go back to when I was a kid. There was a television show on called it was one of those old variety things, and the entertainer's name was Red Skelton. And
Yeah.
at the end of his show, every week he would say, very humbly, and he was a very humble man, he said, if at the end of my what we've done here, if and across the nation, everyone's watching, but if only one of you, just one, laughed, my mission was complete tonight. And that has resonated with me all my life. I hear a comedian
Nice.
saying this, but
Yeah.
so I say, if today I got to change one, or at least help a person move into it on a different square, so to speak,
Yes.
and that person's willing to do something with it, I had a pretty productive day today, because it could have been a day where I just had a whole lot of fun and said, gee, thanks God, what a wonderful gift you gave me today.
That's right.
And I didn't give it to anyone else. I kind of failed. So, if one of our listeners tonight comes back and says, oh, I got something from that, we did okay.
I couldn't agree more. I've unknowingly have said this ever since starting this show. If I can have a guest who has a message that resonates with one listener, then that is the value. That's the impact, right? So for me, it was unknowingly. I didn't know Red Skelton said that at the end of his variety show, but I've been a huge believer in you impact one person, that's value, that's purpose, right? So man, thank you so much for sharing that insight, Faust. Very much appreciated. And I want to go back for a second and talk about just another persona, if you will, of someone that your book can help. Right? I gave two examples. The first example was someone who was codependent. They relied on people on the outside without looking
Right.
inside, right, for help, for bailing out, for support. And then the second example, I think, was someone with low self-esteem. They don't think they're even worthy of looking inward because they don't think they have anything of value from within to fix themselves. So the third example I wanted to share, and I want your thoughts on this, if you can share, please, is someone, let's say, who really isn't self-aware. They really don't take an introspective look at themselves, and when it comes to their needs for development, they feel that they're fine and they don't need fixing. How can the tools in your book help someone who's in that space?
If a person is willing to read the book,
Hmm.
uh, then and I have those people, and I have them as clients. They come in and they're like that. I
Hmm.
say, okay, fine. I'm not going to challenge you. And if you really believe you're there, God bless, I hope you are. But read this and just don't make any judgments about it. Just read it.
Right, right.
And you might just change your mind, because those people tend to be more black and white in what they
Yes.
do.
Yes.
But I caught those people in my research design, because that was part of the crowd. You're going to try to get to everybody and help them. You got to get to those people.
Yeah.
And what I did is, at the end of every chapter, I made the chapter short, first of all, 3 to 5 pages, because those folks and many other people, particularly our young people, are not reading long anymore. They want everything real fast.
Right.
So I made it shorter chapters, but at the end of every chapter, I said, try doing this, and here's the steps. So if you're dealing with codependency, for example, and in the book, I talk about the dependent behavior and people pleasing and all that stuff that goes with codependency. And I say, in order to deal with it, do these 6 or 7 things.
Yes. Yes.
Those people came back and said, first, some of them said, I think I am. And then they said, well, I don't do that. And I don't do that. And I said, well, why don't you try?
Yeah.
They want concrete information. They don't want, what they don't want is to hear you preach. If I'm the guy that says, no, I know all that, and you try to change my mind, I'm not going there. They're the people that, who might get the erector set and not read the instructions, and they got 37 pieces over here that somehow didn't come into the puzzle. So they don't read the instruction, but they will if you make it real plain and simple. Say, just do this.
Yes.
Then they'll do it. Yeah. Then they'll go and get it.
That keeps it simple, and they don't feel like they're being told what to do.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a sense of humility, it sounds like, that you have when you deliver that advice to them. Just try it. Just read the book. Just try this. And that's another distinction about your book, Faust, that makes me want to pick up a copy. Is it's not just preaching. It's not preaching at all. But the part that really stands out to me is it gives a call to action. It gives a call to action. It sounds like in every chapter, for the reader, for the person who's going through this.
Harvey, when I designed this book, of course, I took a year. I thought I was going to start writing, and then I took some advice from people in the publishing business. They said, back down a little bit. You're going to have to learn all this stuff. You can go get it later and play catch up, or why don't you learn how to design things and talk to people? So I did that, and I said, what's missing in self-help after reading all these texts was, they all came with a lot of information.
Yeah.
40 page chapters and what have you. And in every chapter, in every book, I'm sorry, what was missing was the how-to section at the end. They said, here's codependency. Codependent people want everyone to love them, and they want everybody to be okay so they can feel like their world is okay, and etc. Right. Okay, if you're going to do that, then you're going to have trouble. Read this. I condensed all the information in about 3 pages, and you're going to see it. And that makes sense. Okay. And then at the end, I did what I never, ever saw done before. I gave them the exact steps in every chapter, all 36 chapters. Do this. If you do this, it will work for you. And everyone who's read the book, everyone who counsels with me and works through this program says, you can't fail if you do it.
Right.
And then the neat thing, and as humbly as I can say it, I created nothing new. I went inside, got what we already have. I just simply laid it out differently. So if laying it out differently is something new, okay, I'm blessed to have done that. But really, that's what makes it so nice. I'm not selling acronyms, and I'm not selling this new plan and fix yourself in 10 easy steps, all that stuff that people buy and then say, oh, that didn't work.
Right.
I set it up. so that the steps are right there. And the neat thing about it is, let's say you're dealing with anger and you read the chapter on anger, and you work the steps on it, and boy, this works great. I'm much better. And then a year from now, some of your old tricks are back and you're starting to do that again. You can go right to the table of contents. There's the chapter on anger. It's about
Right.
5 pages. Read it
Yeah.
again and go right to the steps, and your reference book is there for you. And that's what
Oh,
the other thing I want it to be. I want them to be able to go back and I'll
yes.
say, now where in the book was anger? Now I got to go find it. And then they're not going to. But if it
Right,
says anger in the table of contents, and I can go right there, and there's the 5 pages, my little refresher, and there's the steps.
Mhm.
I catch my breath and I go back and do it again, because I did it once already. I know I can do it again.
No, for sure. Yeah, you definitely could do it again, and man, that is thank you for sharing that. Telling, something you haven't done before or haven't seen done before at the end of every chapter, giving someone a call to action, that right there, I think supports the true value and purpose that someone can get out of the book, right? I mean, you can read all day long, but until, you're given some direction and some action to take, you really will never apply it, right? So I want to touch on one of those chapters. I think you mentioned as an example in your last answer with anger. I want to talk
Mhm.
about a chapter or an area that you talked about regarding creativity. Okay, and discovering the creativity within yourself and just some of the benefits and ways you can tap into your creativity. Everyone has different levels, I guess. Some are more than others, some are just more tapped into it than others. But how can someone discovering, or let's say rediscovering, their creativity help them in overcoming their adversities and challenges?
Wonderful question. Um, the chapter on creativity is one of my favorite chapters in the book. I have to say, I have 3 or 4 that I just, I wrote them when I was done. I said, oh, that just hit it. And
Yeah.
that was one of them, because I believe, maybe a little different than there, and this is not blowing smoke at everyone. I
No.
believe everyone is creative.
Mhm.
I believe that the problem is we tend to compare ourselves to those who are, you know, the athletes, the singer, the
Gotcha.
movie star, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
look at what they're doing and say, now that's creative, that dancer, whatever it may be. I'm not creative.
Mm,
They have they have mastered their form of creativity. We all have our own. And what I always tell people is, stop thinking of yourself as not creative,
right.
and do not look for the thing you're creative in, because if you do that, you're pressing.
Yeah.
Be creative in everything you do. I don't care if you're taking out the
Mhm.
garbage,
Yes.
sing and dance and do it in a creative fashion. Put your own spin on everything you do.
Got it.
And if you do that in everything, you will now say, I'm being creative. It doesn't have a destination yet,
Mhm.
but I just realized that every little mundane thing I used to hate, all those little things that I defined as not creative,
Right.
I just attached a little bit of creativity to. And
Mhm.
once I do that, the neurology, so to speak, starts changing. And
Right.
I start thinking about myself just a little differently.
Mhm.
And if you do that, then you're going to start applying it. Again, there's that little to big stuff we talk about. You're going to apply
Right.
it to something. Well, you know what? Tried that once. I thought I was okay. It wasn't so
Yeah.
good. Maybe I'll try that again. Or
Yeah.
all of a sudden, a little creative fire going on inside
Yeah.
me that I didn't feel before, because I was not using that part of my brain, so to speak.
Got it. Okay. So
And
it's like
once you
kindling.
start doing it, it's about thinking of yourself differently.
I see.
That's what it's all about. If I think of myself as creative, let me give you an example. I'm going through all this stuff as I was growing up, and I get into college. And actually, twice this happened. In high school, I had a journalism teacher call me out, and he was an older, tough guy, and you didn't get anything past him, and I was getting
Mhm.
it past the world, so I was having a
Right.
good time. And he calls me and says, "Your talents are far greater than you know, and you are not going to skip by my class, which I took as an elective because I get out of this pretty easy. He
Sure.
says,
Yeah.
guess who my new news editor is? It's you, and you're able to do it. And I said, huh?
Oh, wow.
I took it and ran with it just to prove him wrong. And well,
Yeah.
guess what? The newspaper wins a national award for its news department.
Amazing.
Now I get into college and I'm a junior, and I
Yeah.
get a professor who says to me, you're skating a bit, and I don't think you're using your abilities here. You're far more creative in your ability to teach than you know. I'm saying, he says, so I want you to teach, run a group in one of my classes. Every week you get to run that group. All right. I said, what the heck? I can wing my way through this. He says, oh, no, you can't, because you're not teaching. I'm an undergraduate junior. He said, you're going to teach second year graduate students.
Oh, wow. The
I
audience.
said, wait a minute.
Right, right.
Now I'm thinking, can I do this? And I'm thinking, what are they going to say when the undergraduate junior walks into their class and says, I'm teaching you?
Right.
Well, we tried it. And of course, they had to adjust a bit. And he worked with them on that. But it happened. Now, I never thought I could do this. But I was put in a position to creatively challenge myself.
That's right.
So the moral of the story is, you don't have to be a prodigy. You don't have to be some intelligent person. You just have to say creatively, just like every other comfort zone we talked about, I'm going to step out of this and try to challenge myself. And if I'm willing to do that, what in the world would make me think I don't have that in me? I don't know. I keep saying it's not there because I didn't look. That's like mom said, go back. I think you left your wristwatch in your room, and you don't go in there and you say, no, it's not there. Well, you don't have your wristwatch. Then till you go and look and say, oh my God, it was under that pair of pants I threw in the corner that I wasn't supposed to throw there. And I found it. Likewise, everything's inside us. We just have to be willing to go get it. And we may fail. That's not, or not get there where we want to get there right away.
Yeah,
that's okay. It's not about the destination. That's what I keep preaching. It's about the decision to move forward on the journey. That's what it's about. And if you're willing to do that, you become a different person. And then you'll define all the rest of it as you go forward. It's all there waiting for you.
Beautiful, beautiful, tremendous. Yeah, yeah. I love how we came full circle to the meaning and the message and the essence of the book, of finding this from within, right? And and taking those action steps to move in that direction. So Faust, man, I want to really thank you for coming on to the show. Can you just share with the listeners how they can connect with you, learn more about your work, and maybe pick up a copy of your book?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. When we set up the website, I wanted to be the same type of person on that website that I was when I wrote the book. So we threw excerpts on about the book there. We have all different kinds of parts of the book on the website, so you can actually go in there and say, is this really what I want for me? I want it to be transparent. I want it to be open and not sell, so to speak. So if listeners go to my website, it's my name, FaustRuggiero.com. You'll find everything about this book that you want to. Everything is there. If you're interested in buying it, Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the usual retailers have it. But everything about the book is on that website. And we're pretty, you can contact me also. If anyone has any questions, there's a contact link, and I'm real good about getting back to people, because that's what we're doing this for. Interested, by all means, head to the website, contact me if you need to. Everything about the book is right there, FaustRuggiero.com.
FaustRuggiero.com. We will put that link directly in our episode show notes, so that while the listeners are hearing a wonderful conversation between us two, they can also simultaneously click the link and go to your website and pick up a copy of the book. Faust, man, I really, truly appreciate you coming on to the show. It's been an honor and privilege having you here, sir. I'm very grateful.
Well, let me echo those words, Aubrey. It's nice to be able to spend, the better part of an hour with someone who, you click like we just did. I thoroughly enjoyed not only the interview, but the new person I got in my life. Love what you're doing. Love, being here. Love you, my friend, and I'll be there anytime you need me. You know where to find me.
Well, Faust, thank you so much, sir. And yes, let's please stay in touch. Okay. I'd love to have you back on the show, maybe 8 months from now, 6 months.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'm going to be starting a new book. And so
Yes.
so we're staying in the Fix Yourself realm. We're looking at the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook. And I should have that out within a year or so. So maybe we'll get together and talk about it, or anything else you need. I'm going to be there for you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. And, anything I can do to help support your movement, help support your mission, I'm willing to help out as well, sir.
Sounds
All right.
great.
So now I'd like to go into a segment I like to call 3 for the Road. And in 3 for the Road, I ask my guests 3 random yet thought-provoking questions, challenging them to answer in 5 words or less. So, Faust, what do you think? Think you're up for it?
Let's give it a try. Remember what I said, the worst that could happen is I don't do well, but I guarantee you I will try.
Hey, just trying right there, to me, that's accomplishment.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you. And by the way, these questions are not cookie cutters. They're not static questions that I ask every guest. My questions are customized based on my guest's background and expertise. Okay. So, all right, let's start with question number 1 for in 3 for the Road. Question number 1. Now, in our lives, we've heard the expression attitude adjustment, right? What metaphoric tool do you see being used for that?
Attitude adjustment. We're back to the willingness to change.
Yes.
Take a risk. That's
Take a
all.
risk.
Don't have to be a big one.
Gotcha.
Little risk. Attitude adjustment occurs because we remain static. We decide I'm going to stay right here, just like the dancer I talked about, until he becomes a little bit more accomplished and tries it. Simply take a risk, get new information.
Take a risk, get new information. That says it all right there. All right. Number 2. If you could wrap this message in a nice little package with a bow, what is the message you want the listeners to get from your book?
Everything is inside you.
Beautiful.
Love yourself enough to go get it.
Everything is inside of you. Love yourself enough to go get it. Love it. Fantastic. All right, Faust. Now, capping us off for 3 for the Road. This one should be easy. It's a fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Transparency with ourselves is
perfection.
Perfection. Love that. Love that. It's authenticity. It's thoughtfulness. It's it's
as
self-awareness.
Good as it gets. Everything starts right there. And
Gotcha.
You're calling transparency. My first chapter in the book is brutal honesty, which really is transparency with yourself.
Right.
I always say it's the first building block of the whole program, because you can't go anywhere without it. If you're not going to be honest with yourself, to be transparent, not with someone else, with you.
Right.
You won't be honest with anyone else if you're not honest with yourself. And that's where it all starts.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Faust, once again, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show, my friend. I love you. I love what you're doing. I'm honored to have you on the show, and more than delighted to bring you back on the show, man.
Sounds great. And I'll be back for you anytime, as I've said.
All right. Thanks. And I want to thank all of you for coming on the show and tuning in and listening. Now, as a quick reminder, just want to let you know that the Rediscover Roadmap digital course is now available. This course shows you how to take an introspective approach towards your personal development using the 4 cornerstones to personal growth. That's self-awareness, humility, gratitude, and service to others. You can get a free preview of this course and even register by visiting roadtorediscovery.com/course. That's road, the number 2, rediscovery.com/course. But more importantly, if you know someone, a loved one, a colleague, a classmate who appears to be at the end of their rope, just nowhere to turn, going through dark days of despair, seem to have one challenge after another with no direction, I humbly ask that you please share this show with them because on the road to rediscovery, there are 2 things we want our listeners to know. Number 1, you are not alone. And number 2, there's always hope. The road to rediscovery, it's part of a movement, a revolution. And guess what? You are now part of it. We're all roadies on this journey of life, and it sure feels good having you on the road with me. Thanks again for listening. We'll chat again soon. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of The Road to Rediscovery. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at roadtorediscoverypodcast@gmail.com and leave us any questions or comments you may have. The Road to Rediscovery is an AJ Shark production.